All right, folks. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Bucks of America podcast. I am your host, Jeff Vance. Now, tonight, I got a very special guest. He's a mutual friend of mine from Sodak Horizon, Ben Klausman, which everybody is aware of his social bringing. But I got to meet him. I got to meet Trent a few weeks ago in August when I went out for a family gathering. And it was unbeknownst to me that I didn't know I was going to meet a friend. And I went out there just strictly to hang out with Ben and hang out with his wife and his kids and little Reed and such, and which everybody's seen on my social media that I had taken pictures with all those guys. And it was just a great Friday night. And we all got out there, we shot our bows and had a blast. But Trent reached out to me last week and he proposed a really good idea about bringing on somebody that's new to the archery world, new to hunting, and providing a fresh perspective. Because those who listen to this podcast frequently, I have a lot of tenured guests that shoot multiple big bucks or has been hunting for several years or if not decades of experience. Now with Trent here, I am going to basically shut up and I'm going to allow Trent here to talk about himself and like what was some of his early inspirations, like what got you out into the outdoors in your early years.
All right. Well, hey, Jeff, thank you so much for having me. And thanks for, just being a good friend on social media. So basically, my name is Trent. I grew up here in South Dakota. I grew up on a farm just south of Sioux Falls here. Been born and raised here my whole life and really enjoy it. Basically, even from a very young age, I've always been an outdoorsy person. My mom frequently had to pull me inside because I wanted to stay outside all day, checking on the cows and playing outside and doing all that fun stuff. So I've always been an outdoorsy person. I did a little bit of hunting when I was in high school. Mostly it was a little bit of waterfowl, a little bit of goose hunting, mostly pheasant hunting. If you don't know, South Dakota is the pheasant capital of the world, or so we claim. Um, so yeah, my dad has some 40 acres of CRP, and I hunted that quite a bit when I was in high school and got a couple birds out there. After I graduated high school, I went to college and kind of became more of a city person, um, just by, circumstances and whatnot. Um, and I kind of got away from hunting. And recently, within the last year and a half to 2 years, I kind of felt that itch of like, being in the city is nice. It's convenient. It's, there's fast food, there's internet, there's heating and stuff. But at the same time, there's kind of just like this itch in me is like, you haven't really gone outside much. And basically, to make a long story short, I've been dealing with depression my whole life. And a couple years back, I had a suicide attempt, which thankfully did not come into fruition here. So because of that, I have just a little bit of a natural aversion to guns. I have no problem with people shooting guns. I have no problem with people owning guns. They're just not for me. And so I'm like, how can I be outside and do the things that I want to do without without guns? And naturally, archery came into mind. One of my best friends in the whole wide world, we've known each other since we were kids. Ben Klusman from Sodak Horizon, represent. um, no, Ben Klusman. He's been big into archery since we were in high school and that sort of stuff. And so what happened is about 2-ish years ago, I got a bow. It was a really cheap. It was a PSE. I couldn't tell you the brand of it or the name of it. It was a really cheap, like just PSE. It was not a good bow for me. I am
Okay.
I am 6'3", 200 pounds.
Yeah, I think all three of us are that
right. Like
ballpark.
we're big guys here, right? And I had this little, bow that's about this big, and it was okay, yada yada yada. And long story short, I left my bow in my car, and The morning that we had to put our dog down, which was very sudden and unfortunate, my car got stolen. My
Oh
car
shit.
had my bow in it. So that bow was gone. So I made an insurance claim against it, and I got a new bow um, about a year and a half ago. And it's the bow that I currently have right now. It is a Matthews Mission Switch. So again, not like the biggest, fanciest bow and not all the bells and whistles, but it's mine and it's what I could afford at the time. And the difference from that little piece of crap PSE that I had to my Switch that I have now was absolutely night and day. One thing I vaguely remember from the PSE that I had was a draw cycle. I just didn't like it. Whereas the Matthews that I have now is a very smooth, I can pull through it. And it could just be that, I have shot my Matthews a lot more than I ever shot my PSE. But, my Matthews fits me a lot better to what I like. Um, and, you know, I kind of got into it a little bit. I'd go out to the range once or twice a month, maybe, if that. I'm like, oh, wow, it's blowing 3 degrees from the east. Well, that's too windy. I'm not going to go out today. I just didn't quite feel like it. I wasn't really committed with it. And it wasn't until Ben actually invited me out to a archery shoot out in Canton, South Dakota, which is about 20 minutes away from me here.
Okay.
Um, it was just a little outdoor 3D shoot. They had like, oh, you have to shoot through brushes and you have to get on your knees and shoot and you have to aim and, you have to understand South Dakota is a very, very flat land. We don't have hills, we don't have mountains, especially on the east side of the river. So for me, shooting even with a little bit of elevation was like, oh my gosh, this is so difficult. How do people do this? Um, but it was really that first 3D shoot that I had that I was like, oh, this is actually really fun. Like this is like, oh, I'm actually having a good time and enjoying myself. And from that point on, I was out at the range, even just shooting at bags 4 to 5 times a week. I went from
Nice.
going like maybe once a month to like multiple times a week, So I'm like, I really started enjoying myself doing it. So, I had to practice a lot. And so what I did is, I started at a very weak poundage. I think I was only shooting like 45 pounds and I was going maybe 30 yards. If I was feeling frisky, I'd go up to a 40-yard shot and miss the
Okay.
bag entirely. Like um, what I did is I just got a round bill at my parents' place and set it next to the side of the shed. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna try to sight in. So I made like a little circle of spray paint about the size of a dinner plate. So, the old adage that I always heard was, you know, if you can hit a deer about the size of a dinner plate, that's pretty much a kill shot. So that's what I did, and I practiced and I practiced and I practiced. And this year I finally felt confident enough to where if I am going after a deer, I'm going to be able to shoot it and I'm going to be able to harvest it.
Okay.
Um, because one big thing to me is, and I've said this to Ben and to all my friends multiple times, is ethical hunters, I truly believe, are animal lovers. We do not want to see animals suffer.
Correct.
And that's one of the big things I was like, that made me really apprehensive about deer hunting for the first time is like, am I going to be able to shoot this animal and not have it suffer? Because like I said, I grew up on a farm. I've seen animals suffer, and it is awful. I absolutely hate it. Um, and I guess while we're kind of going through my origin story, I guess,
Go for it.
yeah, basically what happened is it was out in the middle of summer one day, and what happened was is I was out at my parents' place. He's not here anymore, but my dog Rowan He's a little beagle. He loves to um, run up and down the gravel road, and I chase him on the side with the four-wheeler because he can run a lot faster than I am not a cardio guy. Fully admit to that. I am not a cardio guy. If I ever want to go like elk hunting, I have to like train for the next 6 years. So I'll get on that tomorrow. Um, um, but what had happened is about 3/4 of a mile down the road from my parents' place, there's a cemetery. And when I went um, there were a bunch of rabbits in the cemetery. And I'm like, I went back and I'm like, hey, Dad, do you think people would mind if I went and got taking care of those rabbits? And he's like, no, please do. They want us to take care of those rabbits because they eat, the grass and the flowers and the decorations and stuff. And, you're doing it with a bow, you're not doing it with a gun. So it's respectable in that aspect here. Um, and so I'm like, okay, cool, bet. So I went out there, and of course, by the time I get back out there with my bow, all the rabbits are gone. I'm like,
Of
dang
course.
nabbit, like of course they are. Like, why didn't I bring it the first? Anyway, so I'm riding back on the four-wheeler, and I'm coming back home, and my dad has my dog. He just has him by the collar because he didn't want him running off or whatever. And I'm pulling in the driveway, and I look off to my left, 40 yards away, there's a rabbit.
Okay.
I'm like, sweet, I got this. And it was actually super lucky and honestly an act of God that I had this happen because I think like 3 weeks before, Ben and we went out turkey hunting. So we set up in a blind because I had only ever had field points at this point. I had never shot a broadhead before.
Okay.
And Ben and I went turkey hunting. He's like, here, throw this broadhead on and we'll get a turkey with it. I think it was like it's a mechanical broadhead. I think it's like a Thrive, I think.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the brand. I'm still like I said, I'm new to archery. I'm still learning all the brand names. I'm still learning all the ins and outs here. I know it was a mechanical broadhead. And so I'm standing on the four-wheeler. I have my rangefinder, I grab it out of my pocket, range it. It's like 40 yards away from me. I'm like, it's a little bit far away for a rabbit for the first time hunting or whatever.
Okay.
So I quietly just turn off the four-wheeler and I sneak up, sneak up, sneak up. And I get to about 33 yards away. I'm like, he's about to bust. So I draw back and I shot and I got him right down the middle. Just, he went maybe 5 yards before he
Okay.
just was dead. And I'm like, oh my God, I am the greatest hunter on the face of the earth. Like I am like over the moon. My dad's like hooping and hot. He is super excited for me because this is the first time I've ever killed anything with my bow. I'm like, okay, sweet, this is awesome. So, we take the rabbit up to the house and we get a couple pictures with it, with the bow and the arrow and the thing and whatever. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to my dad or whatever. And all of a sudden I look off to my left again, about 150 yards away, there's another rabbit. I'm like, Dad, hold the dog. I gotta go. And so I sneak up, and this one I'm not super proud of because I got within 20 yards of the rabbit, and he moved, and I hit him square in the back leg. Like I saw him jump, and I just saw his back leg just do like this in the air.
Okay.
But like I had a good shot on him. I'm pretty sure I broke like his hip or something. He didn't make it too far, and then I eventually ended up putting one, just in his neck with a field point just to finish him off, and he was done so. But yeah, the very first time I went out hunting with my bow, I got 2 rabbit kills. So I'll gladly take it, and I can't quite describe the feeling other than like I just felt excited from my head down to my toes. Like I was just like giddy. I was smiling. It was just the coolest experience. I'm like, this is something I want to do. If my thinking is if I can hit a rabbit at 30 yards away, that's smaller than the kill zone of a deer, I got this. And that's what really gave me the confidence boost to actually go after deer. I don't come from a hunting family. Um, My grandpa hunted somewhat when he was still alive and farming, but it was mostly he had a gun on the side of this. He had a 22 on the side of the tractor, and he had a shotgun in the combine. So if any birds came out in the combine, he would shoot them, and he'd throw them to grandma, and grandma would clean them. Well,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
um, both my grandpa passed away on Christmas Day last year, so he didn't get to see me um, deer hunt, unfortunately. But that is the most experience and exposure that I had to hunting besides Ben. Um, so basically, I'm doing all this from square one, trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing. You know, um, so it's and I'll say this, and I talked to you before we started the show here, but I cannot thank Ben from Sodak Horizon enough. He's a super super nice guy, super willing to answer any of my dumb questions, and just really willing to help me out because when you're starting out hunting, there's a lot of expense that's involved with it. You have the bow, you have the arrows, you have the I fletch my own arrows and I cut my own arrows. So there's all that expense. There's, blinds, there's tree stands, there's decoys, there's calls, there's all this stuff. And if it wasn't for Ben lending out some of his equipment to me, I couldn't do what I like to do. Um, so Ben, if you're listening, massive shout out. I love you, dude. You are fantastic. um, But yeah, so that was about in May of this year. Um, and then my family and we went on a family vacation out to the Black Hills in June. And it was the last day that we were out in the Black Hills, and I get a message from Ben. It's like, hey, I know this is super last minute, but do you want to go out to Mountain Archery Fest with me? I'm like, what the heck is Mountain Archery? I mean, archery, cool, but like, what is it? It's like, oh yeah, it's like a big like 3D shoot like the one we did in Canton previously, but it's on the side of a mountain. And I'm like, okay, yeah, bet, sure, whatever, I'm down. Not knowing what the hell I was getting into. Um, Let me tell you, it was an experience. And I'm very glad I did it, but holy moly, I was not ready for it. Um, because like I said, East River, South Dakota is a very, very flat land. Um, like the tallest point in South Dakota on the east side of the river is a 4-story building. We don't have height here. It's all
No,
flat.
no.
It is. You've been here. It's all flat.
I know. Yeah. I used to have family that lived in Sioux. Well, I have family that still lives in Sioux Falls, but I also had family that lived in Elkton too, just 40 miles away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it is flat here.
It
There
is.
is nothing here. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I can do that. No big deal. And so this was in Shell, Wyoming. And, I got off work, I want to say about like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And Ben and I had like a 12-hour drive. And so we get to the campsite at 1 o'clock in the morning and we get up at like 6:37-ish because we wanted to hit the course right away. And I tell you, that was some of the most fun I have had in years. Um, Being up in the mountains, beautiful scenery, getting to see elk and moose from a safe distance in the car, mind you, but like up close, you know what I mean?
I get it.
Because look, I may not be a smart guy, but moose and moose especially, they are scary creatures, especially if they're running towards you and they're scared. They can be very scary animals. Like I said, I've lived on a cow farm the first 18 years of my life. You learn to deal with a great respect of animals that are weigh 1,200, 1,500 pounds, especially when they come running at you. So it was really cool to see that, and it was really interesting to see what challenges there were. because there were a lot of very technical shots at Mountain Archery Fest. I'm trying to remember what course that we did. I can't remember what course we did, but it was either the hardest or the second hardest one that Mountain Archery Fest had to offer. And we thought, oh yeah, this is one of the easiest ones. We'll warm up with this. It's not a big deal. Cool beans. And it ended up being one of the hardest ones, but it was intimidating as a first-time archer because I'm not used to having to deal with elevation. I'm not used to shooting through branches and making difficult shots where if you miss, you're going to pack out a tree instead of a deer, um,
Yeah.
you're going to be eating bark soup for supper that night, and so it was a lot of fun and it was really, really challenging. And I'm glad I brought I think 20 arrows because I think I came home with 5. Um, I mean, look, if you're going to Mountain Archery Fest, one, please do. It is a lot of fun. It's a great organization, and it supports a lot of good causes. And two, if you're going to go, bring a lot of arrows because it is challenging.
Yeah.
It's have you gone to Mountain Archery Fest before, Jeff? I don't know if you have or not.
I have not. You and Ben are the first ones have told me about it. I did a similar experience in July with Beast Mode Archery Games.
Okay.
They're King of the Hill 3D, and that was a challenge because the average shot was 60 yards, and it was uphill, downhill, uneven terrain, stitching in between trees and branches and all that fun stuff. And oh man, it's like I left with 6 arrows, came back with 1, and I still completed a scramble at night and still brought home that arrow. So yeah, I shoot Carbon Express SDs, and those sons of a guns are expensive if you buy them full price. But I won them at an auction for HHA USA, and so I had those all cut up and stuff like that, and did that. And I was like, I'm glad I brought 6 arrows because I only came home with 1.
Right.
It was just
man.
It's insane, dude. It's a fun thing though. But when you're going through the terrain, it's not easy. Like the first there's 3 courses on it. We did the Savannah course where you start off at 0 elevation. You make your way up to 3,000 elevation, but you have to climb up a creek bed, and then those shots are ranging between 20 to 40 yards uphill. And then you get out of that, then you do the back half, which range from 50 to 80 yards. And that's where I had the most fun. I think that was my favorite course of them all. And I trained for it too. And I did the exact same thing Ben did to you. I brought my buddy Jeremy Fish from the Toxin app and Badger State Outdoors there in Eau Claire. And I told him just bring boots. Did not tell him what he was going to get into. One of the courses starts off at ground zero, and you have to march your way up to 5,000 elevation, and some of your shots are 50 plus yards uphill, and you have to also know the arc of your arrow, and if your rangefinder only goes line of sight, you're going to be hating life because if you had the more expensive one, it actually incorporates angles and stuff like that, so it's a little bit more tuned in. And yeah, he shoots those big old FM 23s, just massive, where a dozen of them will cost you $250. Yeah, that's and keep in mind that is without fletchings, a knock, or a what's what I'm looking for?
Inserts?
No, not necessarily inserts. Well, I'm probably sure they don't come with inserts either, but also your field points too. So all in all, it's a very expensive. That's what a lot of people use for 3D archery and stuff because it's so the diameter is so massive that helps you break those lines of 10s and 12s and all that fun stuff. And it's almost a form of cheating, to be honest with you, but it's they make it's not. It's all part of the game.
Part of it.
But there are guys out there that take it to the next level where they're competing for thousands of dollars. So it's like you're gonna need every advantage.
Oh,
and it's like everything between you and the your pin is all mental game. And then everything else is trying to get it out there and being consistent, accurate. So Now with Mount Archery Fest, do you have a lot of ups and downs and hills and stuff like that when it comes through it?
Absolutely. So Yeah, there's a lot of ups and downs. The main course that we shot, the really difficult course that we shot the first day, um, you took a ski lift up to the top of the mountain and you hiked your way down.
Okay.
So it was mostly downhill shots, but there are some, you come down the trail and you shoot back, not at people, like not at the trail you just walked, but like you do shoot uphill. I think I missed a baby bison that was like a 20-yard uphill, like straight uphill shot that I'm not used to. So I like way overshot it. Like it just went clear out into no man's land. So it's a lot more downhill shots. But there are still quite a bit of elevation changes and like places where like you have to get on your knees to like squeeze in between the trees and stuff and that sort of stuff. The Pope and Young course, which is the course we shot the second day that we were there, um, that's a more and that's one cool thing about Mountain Archery Fest too that I'll basically the Pope and Young course, the same people that do the scoring system, they sponsor a course at Mountain Archery Fest, and their course is handicap accessible. Um,
Oh, all right.
and so they have a like an all-terrain wheelchair. So you know if somebody has mobility issues, they can still go out and shoot, which I think is just absolutely fantastic. Like I am all about getting people out in the woods and getting out there and growing the sport. um so yeah, that one is more of like it's a gradual hill up and a gradual hill down, so it's not as intense, and it's meant for like families and kids and people with who need that wheelchair access. um so there's four courses at Mountain Archery Fest that we were at in Shell, Wyoming. We only did two of them because the very first day kind of kicked our rear ends.
It lets you know how
We
out of shape you really are.
Oh, absolutely, and how not acclimated we are to elevation. Because you know, it's quite a hike down there. I think it was something like 5 to 6,000 feet up in the air, and then you hike down to base camp or whatever. So I mean, it's a good climb down. And it was 25 targets, and I think that took us like 5 hours to do.
That's
Um,
not bad. That's pretty average for 25 targets for now. How many people were there at the event?
um, I want to say
Is that a couple thousand or
no. It's a lot smaller than attack.
okay.
Um, yeah,
No,
it's a
tacks are
lot.
ridiculously
Oh, I
long.
know,
It's
and
like the
that's
course is not long. It's just there's a lot of people. And when you're stacking them all up, you're looking at six
right,
hours just to do 15, 20 targets.
right. And that's what's really nice about Mountain Archery Fest is it's smaller. I think there were like 300 to 500 people
But that's not
at
bad.
Shell,
So it's
Wyoming.
pretty quick.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. So I mean, realistically, what you do is you sign up and you say, okay, I want to do the Pope and Young course today, and you get done with the Pope and Young course, and like, okay, I can go shoot another one. Can I go shoot another one? Yeah, go for it. There is no, I mean, there's a little bit of waiting for groups, like and some people like there was one group that was just a lot faster than us because Ben and I and Brian from State Raps, who's also a super great guy. If you want raps, hit him up on Instagram. He's a really cool dude. Makes really good. I actually think I have one here somewhere. Oh, darn it. Oh, here it is. Because what I do is I run a hot pink wrap. Oh my gosh, you can't even see it. I
There it
run a
is.
hot pink wrap, and then a hot pink knock vein, and then two green veins for my arrows. Makes it super easy to find arrows. Really cool, and they look really awesome. Um, Shout out Brian if you're listening. By the way, really cool guy. Um, we were out there to help film for our Mountain Archery Fest because they're doing a collaboration with Carbon TV, I believe. Um, so they wanted to get footage. So Ben brought out his camera and was filming everything. There's actually a really cool shot from my perspective because I was shooting at like a 50-yard sheep or something,
Okay.
and one of my veins broke off mid-flight. So you just see like you see it start spiral, and then you see it like going like all kitty wampus and everything. It looks really cool in slow-mo. I think it's up on his YouTube channel if you look up Ben's YouTube channel. Um, but no, we were out there to basically film a lot for Mountain Archery Fest because they're doing this series with Carbon TV. Um, so, we were just taking our time. We were having a good time and, just enjoying the course. And we weren't scoring or anything just because I think Brian forgot his arrows at home in Colorado.
Oh
And
shit.
right. And so he's like hobgobbling. He's like, hey, can I borrow an arrow or two from you? Like, oh yeah, sure, man. Whatever, no big deal. Um so it's just really cool. And a really tight-knit community out there. Um and and I have to give out a huge shout out to the people at Mountain Archery Fest. Because, you know, like I said, this is my first year doing this. And there's people that have been hunting and shooting archery for decades that have more experience than me.
Yeah.
They have better equipment than me.
Okay.
My I have a Matthews Mission Switch. It's like a $600 to $700 bow, not super expensive. I think it's like
It's even cheaper than that. It's like I looked at the MSRP because I wanted to find out more about Mission. It's only like 550. It's fairly.
yeah,
It's a 450. It's a fairly. And
yeah,
then you have the MXR or something like that. It's the next one up. But it's
yeah,
a good solid bow, and it's
right,
allows you to hunt legally. So that's all that matters. I mean, I've seen
right,
you
and
don't need an RX5 or an RX7 to go out there and shoot. I mean, I was shooting with I shot with when we was at when I do the HHA shoots. There's guys using 20-year-old bows out there because that's their tried and true, and they felt no reason to buy a new one.
oh yeah,
They just replaced this thing. So
absolutely,
don't
and
ever compare your equipment because it's like I used to like when I
right.
used to play when I used to play paintball, I used to play with pump guns. And that's a single shot every time you got to reload. And I would destroy people because I had the technique to be able to perform it. Now I just
Right.
primarily focus on archery. I still have them on my paintball guns though.
There you go.
I don't think I'll never get rid of them because it's like if five guys want to go out and play, we can be able to put together a team. It's just they have to rent some equipment.
So what you're saying is when I come up to Wisconsin for the shoot, we're gonna go play some paintball afterwards. I see what you're saying.
If we have time, because typically when we go to these HHA shoots, like if we go a Saturday shoot, man, we're typically there from like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning till I don't know about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So there's no doing that unless we dedicate Sunday to doing that too as well, because then you have to drive home on Monday.
Right. I'm just yanking your chain. But that's one thing that I have to give a large shout out to the Mountain Archery Fest community is, I was very intimidated because I'm new to archery. I have cheaper-ish stuff just because it's what I could afford at the time. And, I was thinking like, I'm going to be embarrassed. I'm going to be showing up. People are going to make fun of me and stuff. And people were just very cool. Like, yeah, dude, that's awesome. You're getting into it. Yeah. Stick with this bow for a couple years until you can afford something nicer if you want, or if you want to keep it, keep it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that really helped me too, is the Mountain Archery Fest community was very welcoming, and very non-judgmental about what I have. They're just like, yeah, dude, that's awesome that you're out here. You're trying something new for the very first time. And, yeah, you're going to lose some arrows and you're going to make a fool of yourself sometimes, but you're getting out there and you're having a good time. And that's the most important thing.
Amen.
And that's why I got to have a huge shout out to the Mountain Archery Fest community. Super nice people out there, super non-judgmental, and just a very good time. And when Ben and I were going out to Mountain Archery Fest, I am asking him all sorts of newbie questions, right? I'm talking like, what's it like, why would you go with the 4-fletch vane versus a 3-fletch vane? What is FOC, mechanical versus fixed broadheads? Like all these questions that Yeah, if I really wanted to, I probably could have Googled it, but like it's nice hearing it from someone who's had years of experience and can explain it to you and easily digest it here. Um, and so that really kind of kicked off the bug that I got for Mountain Archery Fest is that's
Okay.
not Mountain Archery Fest, the bug for archery.
Okay.
And like, yeah, sorry, it's been a long day at work today, so you'll have to forgive me if I screw up my words here. Um,
I'm Jake with HHA Sports, and today we're going to talk a little bit about our dovetail sights and how they're going to fit on the new Matthews V3X. So as you'll see, I have a Tetra Max Tournament Edition sight on this 33-inch V3X. All of our dovetail sights, the Tetra and the Tetra Max, will fit on the V3X. Also, in the next couple of weeks, you'll see us come out with a shorter dovetail version. It'll just be our short bar version, which will also fit on the V3X on both the 29 and 33-inch model. One question that we've gotten pretty frequently lately is the windage adjustments on your Tetra and Tetra Max bow sights on the new Matthews bow. And this year we came out with the infinite adjust plate, which you'll see on the front end of your sight. So when you put this infinite adjust plate on, you'll want to either flip it to the inside or the outside. And for the inline mounting sight options, such as the V3X, you're going to want to make sure that the infinite adjust plate is to the outside of your infinite adjust channel. This will allow for optimal windage adjustments. So you'll also be able to find the infinite adjust bracket on our website if you're already shooting a Tetra or Tetra Max Tournament Edition sight. Another way that you can get your HHA to fit V3X is by buying our conversion kit, which you can find on our website at hhasports.com. We'll be selling those at retail around $60. So basically the only thing you'll have to do is you'll have to take apart your sight at the third access point, and you can convert any Tetra or Tetra Max sight. So if you have a fixed frame, you can get that into a dovetail. So like mentioned before, any dovetail sight will fit a Tetra or a Tetra Max, as well as our short bar version. For more information, you can visit our website at www.hhasports.com.
so yeah, basically since then, since Mountain Archery Fest, I was like, okay, Mountain Archery Fest really kicked my butt, but it also kind of gave me some good perspective of what I need to work on. But at the same time, I also did pretty good at Mountain Archery Fest for my first year of being an archer.
Okay.
You know, like, yeah, I lost a bunch of arrows and yeah, I broke some arrows.
It's all a part of fun. Those are
Oh,
memories.
oh yeah, absolutely. Um, I can still tell you where I absolutely sailed one on a bear on a tree. I can tell you where I absolutely sailed it. There's no way I'm gonna find it, but I can tell you where I shot at it. But it gave me that confidence of, if I can do this out in the mountains, out of my element, out of my comfort zone, I can go deer hunting this year, and I can ethically harvest an animal.
True.
And
Very
that's
valid.
and that to me is what gave me a really big confidence boost. Um, there was a couple more like closer 3D shoots that they're mostly just fun shoots, and like it's a lot of the shoots around here are like, oh, you're shooting downhill into a creek. You move to the next target. Oh, you're shooting downhill into a creek. Oh, you're shooting downhill into a creek. There's a lot of that around here just because that's all the elevation practice that you can really get around
True.
here. So it's just, building up the confidence with that and, going out there and practicing. And so I was talking with my dad and I'm like, hey, Dad, do we have any land that we've seen a lot of deer at? And he goes, well, there is one place that he rents, that he farms at. It's a cornfield this year. And basically what it is I think it's not a full quarter. It's a little bit less than a quarter. It's probably 60 acres, somewhere in there.
Of just corn or food or
Just
for
corn.
habitat. Okay.
It's just straight corn. And there's a patch of volunteer trees right at the edge of the property that, they just can't get at. It's not good to get at. But there was a fence around there, and when they took down the fence 3 or 4 years ago, they scared up about a dozen deer. I'm like, sold. I'm done. I'm out there. So I started putting out game trail cameras, and just going on Facebook Marketplace, getting the $45 game trail cameras, the whatever, however many megapixels. I couldn't even tell you what name. I couldn't even tell you what brand they are. But they got the job done. And the first couple weeks, I got nothing. And I'm like, really? I'm practicing. I'm getting all this in here and seeing nothing.
Okay.
This is ridiculous. And so, because and that's one thing that I have to work on too, is I am very impatient when it comes to game trail cameras. I am super impatient when it comes to game trail cameras here, Jeff. It's bad. Like I will set it up one day. I'm like, I'm gonna go check and see if I saw anything overnight. But I have to restrain myself, and I always give myself at least a week. I'll go in there once a week to check the cameras. I'll try to stretch it out to 2, but most likely I'm there. Like if I'm there at noon on a Saturday, I am there at noon the next Saturday, ready to check the game trail cameras. Like I am giving myself a week for these to soak and to sit and to collect data and stuff. And there's 2 properties that I have permission for. One property I saw one doe one time, but I mean it's such an open field that you would have to. There's no way you could cover it with cameras. There's absolutely no way you could cover it with cameras. And the second property, the one that I've actually been hunting, I put up 2 cameras there, and I ended up seeing a doe on camera for the first time. Like, okay, we have ourselves a little bit of hope. We're okay here. As the season gets closer and gets closer, in South Dakota, archery season opens up the 1st of September, and it runs through sometime in January. I'd have to look up when the actual end date is. But like, you know what? It's my first year deer hunting, first time I'm ever going to be sitting. I know I'm not going to see anything, but I have to go out there just to say that I've done it for the first year. I went out there after work, and got to sit out there. So a couple weeks before the season hit, Ben and I, we went out there, we set up the blind, because tree stands are expensive and there's not a really good place to put up a tree stand where I'm at. So, we set up the blind, we got the lawn chair in there, we got it all, we broke off a couple branches and stuffed it with some grass so it doesn't look like just a big block. It looks like a tree falling down kind of thing.
Okay.
So we try to, blend it in somewhat to the background there. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. And I had checked the cameras the week before the first set. I checked the cameras the week before. I hadn't seen anything out there. Hadn't seen a darn thing.
There's too much corn. They're bedding down that corn. They're eating.
Oh, absolutely they are. Absolutely.
Unless you were able to set yourself up next to a water or on a trail that was next to water, that's the only way you're going to be able to get good footage.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I said, this is my first year doing this. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. But I'm just like, you know what? We're just going to go out there and sit. And we're going to see what we see. We're probably not going to see anything. No big deal. So it is the 1st of September, 2022. I get off work and I head out to the stand at about 5 o'clock. And sunset is, I want to say it's a little bit before 8 o'clock. And in South Dakota, legal shooting hours are a half hour before sunrise and a half hour after sunset.
It's pretty standard across the nation when it comes down to it.
Okay.
Unless you live in like a wonky state.
Yeah, and I have no idea, so I'm just explaining the rules and regulations to kind of cover my own behind here.
Right, that's the best way to cover.
And so I'm texting Ben, and I'm like, hey, going out to the stand today. Wish me luck. Hopefully I see something. He goes, yeah, buddy, sure, you got this. Thinking he's not going to see anything. It is 95 degrees outside.
You'd be very
No wind.
surprised. Very
No
surprised what'll
wind.
come out. Yeah.
There's no wind. It is still as can be. It
Oh,
is
that's good.
95. I am sweating like there is no tomorrow. Like I am
Yeah.
not a skinny guy by any stretch of the imagination here, Jeff. For the audio listeners at home, I am not a skinny guy. I was tempted to just take my shirt off and just be like, heck it, we're going shirtless and bow hunting and stuff.
Hey, it's not
And
uncommon. There's guys out there go
I
pronghorn
know.
hunting that take
I
off.
know.
They pretty much get practically naked. You
Oh,
know,
I
it's
know.
all comes down to your scenario and what you're setting yourself up. We got now. It's like it's beautiful outside because
Oh yeah.
come next week, the lows are going to be in the latter 20s, early 30s in the mornings, and they may get warm up to 60 degrees. Like, I got all next week off. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Nice. Good for you. But I'm just like, I am sitting out there and I am just sweating my back off. Like I'm not having a great time. I'll be honest. I was like, this is miserable. Why would I put myself through this? This is baloney. You know, more colorful language than that, but you get the idea.
Oh, I get it. I've been in your shoes. Like I've had half dozen to a dozen deer show up on 80-degree days, right? Well, in the bluff country, if you set it up just right, you can I'll get movement as early as like 6:37 when when the sun is when it's all shade, and that's the upset about the bluff country. Now where you're at, I'm curious to see when that doe showed up.
So yeah, so I'm sitting there like I'm texting Ben, like I'm just on my phone and like Instagram and Reddit and stuff, just not really paying attention. And all of a sudden I look up and there's a doe 35 yards away from me. I'd be like, I'll be a son of a gun. And like I am like, oh crap, what do I do? And the way that the trail works is the doe is coming in facing me and we make direct eye contact. I'm like, this is over. She saw me. Something's up. She's going to blow. She's going to think this is weird. Whatever. I'm done. This is, at least I saw something, right?
Yeah.
And, but no, so I kind of just slowly moved my eyes and didn't make eye contact. I mean, I still saw her through my peripherals, but you know, I just slowly broke my eye contact and she's like, meh, okay. And just starts eating the grass in front of me. I'm like, okay, we can work with this. And she just kind of meanders, and I get a 17-yard shot on her. And you know, I pull back. She's facing to the north there, so she's facing away from me. So she might see my peripherals or whatever. But I drew back. I remember anchoring. I'm like, oh crap, she's not where I thought she was. So I'm like looking around. Oh, there she is. And I adjust my aim. I don't remember the shot at all. I was so excited and so nervous. I could not tell you where I aimed my pin. You know, I felt like it was a good shot. I felt like it was a good clean release, but I could not tell you where I lined up or anything. I was so nervous / excited / scared / everything. And yeah, I let one fly at like 8:03 or something. And so, you know, I let one fly. I'm like, I let it fly and I saw her do a muley kick.
Okay.
But I was like, I don't know if it was a good shot because I was like so nervous and so scared. Like I don't remember it. Like I almost like blacked out. Like I don't remember a thing. And so I'm like, so first I called Nikki, my fiance. I'm like, hey, I just think I just shot a deer. It was a big old doe. And she's like, oh, you know, congratulations and stuff. I called Ben and he's like, okay, you're good. Just sit there. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Just sit tight. Don't get out of your blind.
Perfect.
And then I called my dad, let him know. And he's like, what do you need from me? I'm like, I don't need anything from you. I just needed to tell you. And I'm like, okay, sweet, cool. So Ben, if you're listening, I'm sorry about this, but I didn't listen to your advice entirely. I went to the impact site first.
Okay.
I just went to the impact site. I couldn't find the arrow and I didn't see any blood. And I'm like, oh, crap. I totally just missed her. I got everybody excited for nothing. Whatever. And, 30, 40 minutes later, Ben comes around and he has the flashlight. And it's like, okay, let's take a look here. And so we look at where she was standing, and there's a bit of hair on the ground. I'm like, okay, so I must have hit her. And if we look at the corn behind her, oh, there's a drop of blood there. Okay, no big deal. We'll just kind of leapfrog it here. So
Smart.
I'll stand at last blood, you go find next blood, and then I'll move up to you and you find next blood. Just kind of leapfrogging it. And she went maybe 45, 50 yards, double lunged her and got her in the heart. Got her at the top of the heart.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I think I can look at my Instagram here. I think I have the kill shot on my Instagram. Like, you could not have asked for a better shot. Like, it was, and I told Ben, it's like, oh, I think she's just like a dog. Like, she's not very big. She's not very big at all. And then we get to her and she's like 200 pounds or something. Like, okay,
that's
all
a
right.
big doe. She's thick.
Yeah, like she thick. She was probably like a 3-year-old doe, I would say. Just roughly get. And obviously, take it with a grain of salt because I'm hunting and it's my story, so inflating the numbers a little bit to make myself better. I know how this goes. But yeah, we got her. We found her. We poked her, didn't move a muscle, and she was out. And oh man, I couldn't tell you how excited I was. It was. I told Ben, it's like, I want to scream, I want to cry, I want to crap myself. Like, I am just so excited about this. Like,
she's definitely a good sized doe. I'm looking at her right now on your Instagram.
Yeah.
She's a good sized doe. You did a good job.
Yeah, I got it with I think the Schwacker, the Levi Morgan special.
Okay.
What I shot. Yeah, it just, so we got her back in Ben's truck and we brought her back to his place so we could gut it real quick, gut it and quarter it. And yeah, it pierced through both lungs and the top of the heart. Because that's one thing that Ben does, is he does like an autopsy when he shoots a deer, even if it's just like a quick, visual inspection and stuff. And
okay,
and that's one thing that I want to continue to do as well is, hey, where did I shoot him? What did I hit? What can I do to make this next shot on the next deer better? Yeah, so that was, honestly super exciting. I'd never seen a deer, quartered or field dressed or anything before. So, got to see that for the first time, which was super exciting. And yeah, got my first doe, got a bunch of roasts out of it. Got a bunch of deer sticks and summer sausage, which basically almost went to all immediate family, that all really wanted some. So, that kind of brings me up to Sunday, the 9th, was it? I think it was the 9th, right?
Yeah, it's the 9th, yeah.
Yeah. So Sunday the 9th, I went out in the morning because I'm like, it wasn't a cold front. It was like maybe 40 degrees outside. But from what we've been having, it was a pretty decent size.
It's enough to put something on their feet. I know when Chris Ham shot Houdini, that was on September 28th, and that wasn't that cold of a night either, that morning either. But something about these random cold fronts, and I was only 2 hours away. I was in Lake Okoboji, up until that time. And I told Ben, it's like you should come on out here. It's like you can have a fish fry. I told him, come on a Saturday. But it's like the worst part, it's 2 hours one way, 2 hours back. So it's like it would make sense. And if you would have brought, I told him I recommended him bring Reed with him too, because if they would have got through when we did, because we got off the water about 4 o'clock, that Reed would be able to see all these guys butcher or flay up all these fish rather efficiently. I mean, we had, well, let's see here. Saturday we had 4 guys flaying. On Friday we had 6 guys flaying fish up and stuff, and all of us have 20 years of experience filleting up fish and from all different sizes of knives. But it's just exposing a child at Reed's age is a positive thing, because then he's going to be curious, he's going to be asking questions and stuff like that. He's going to be pointing out, because it's like we had, let's see here, we had yellow bass, crappies, perch. Well, we didn't catch any. We caught walleyes, but nothing big enough where it was like it was either outside slot or under slot. So it's like, it wasn't worth it. And we caught some pike, but it would have shown him different species that we would have caught.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I didn't actually know you were at Lake Okoboji. That's pretty cool. So no, I went out Sunday morning, and I'm like, you know what? It's a cold front. I went out the Saturday. I can't remember if I went out Saturday morning and evening, or if I just went out in the morning.
Okay.
But I went out Saturday, didn't see a darn thing all day. And I'm like, it was like 30 degrees outside. Like, which, yeah, again, it's not the coldest of cold fronts, but it's a random cold front. I mean, today it was in the 70s. So, I mean, it's a random cold front, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't see a darn thing. And then, Saturday, this is Saturday the 8th, I did see a doe, and she walked up the same trail that the doe that I got. She walked up the same trail, meandered a little bit, and walked out her own merry way. I'm like, okay, that was pretty cool. Because what I have is I have 3 tags this year. I have a East River any deer tag, a West River any deer tag, and a statewide antlerless tag. So with the doe that I got, I filled up my antlerless tag. So I'm like, okay, cool. I want to go get a buck. And one thing that's really cool about my fiance is, like, I would be satisfied with shooting does. I'm happy with shooting does because it puts meat on the table. It gets the thrill. It's really awesome. But she's like, no, I want to have antlers to hang up on the wall. I'm like, aw, darn. Okay, I guess I'll go get you a buck.
Twisted my arm.
I know, right? Like, okay, you convinced me. So I really wanted to hold out for a buck. And I've been checking the cameras, and there have been a couple bucks on this property that I've been hunting.
Okay.
There's like a 4x4 that's out there. There's a little forky that's out there. I think he's a 4x4 or 5x5. I can't remember.
Well, that's a good size.
I mean, yeah, he's a decent sized buck. And there's a bunch of like smaller deer out there, like a smaller antler racks. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to shoot the first buck that I see, because I don't know how much time I'm going to have to get out here, especially with it getting colder out and stuff. And, I just want to get a buck, and I want to put food on the table, because I really want to get some, deer steaks. And so I saw a doe on Saturday, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, whatever. Like, there's a doe. There's like 3 does and a couple fawns that are running around at this property, I know. And so Sunday morning comes around, and I'm going out to the place that I'm at, and right next to my hunting grounds, there's a property that's all fenced off, because they have, like, buffalo, and they have a buffalo, and they have a couple donkeys out there.
Okay.
And it's all surrounded by, like, there's like thick woods that are just overgrown and just need to be cleared out. And so I'm going out there, I'm trying to be nice and quiet, and all of a sudden I hear some movement, and all of a sudden I just see 2 does just bouncing out. I'm like, oh, I just busted 2 does out here. My day's going to be ruined. I'm not going to see anything. This is baloney.
Well, this is a good learning moment here. Did they snort wheeze at you or anything like that?
No, they didn't
See,
snort
you're
wheeze. They
fine.
just ran. They just ran.
That is a good, clear indication. Whenever you have that happen to you, don't second guess yourself like that, because it's just a learning experience. Because I've like my doe that I shot a couple weeks ago. She was actually walking down the trail. The tree stand I was sitting in was on, and I sat down because my feet were starting to get achy, and the way the weight shifted in the thing and popped, and not even 7 yards away, all I hear this doe go, and then she shows up, then she reads the script I wanted her to, and rest is history. But that's one thing that I've learned. Like then last year, same property, different spot, sitting her grounds blind. I had those little basket 6 come within 7 yards of me, and he gets right in front of me, and right in front of my ghost blind. He does a complete 180 behind me because I sat in front of a tree. I sat in this big old massive maple tree, I believe it was, or oak tree. And then it comes back around the same way. Then all of a sudden he sees himself. It's a ghost blind, so it's like it's got a mirror finish on it. Sees himself, jumps over the fence, and he's bounding and snort weaving and all this. It's like, oh man. Well, it's like, well, I'm gonna wait it all out because you never know what's gonna happen. And plus, it's like I didn't want to blow my spot. All of a sudden, not even 5 minutes later, 50 yards away, the son of a gun comes back right out again, and he's just walking. So it's like, deer are so weird, but the younger they are, the more curious they tend to be. So it's like those.
Hey everyone, Jake with HHA. Super excited to introduce the Tetra and Tetra Max Rise. The Tetra Max and the Tetra Rise is our new 2-pin vertical bow sight that we're coming out with here for this year. So you'll notice a couple things on it. It's very similar to our single pin platform that we've had here over the last 25 years, and really similar to the other sights in the Tetra line. So what we basically did was we took our single pin technology and we merged that with some multi-pin technology. So the way we built our Tetra and Tetra Max Rise sights was we basically dropped a second pin and that vertical pin coming up from the bottom, and then we added a second indicator on the yardage wheel. So both of those are fixed. One really nice thing with this setup is you sight in at 20 and 60 with the top pin, and you don't have to worry about the second pin at all. That second pin and second indicator will automatically be on. So really nice feature there. The Tetra Rise and Tetra Max Rise are going to come in 8 different frame options. So 4 in the Tetra Max Rise, 4 in the Tetra Rise. Both are going to come in the fixed Hunter Edition frames. So the Tetra Hunter Edition frame, the Tetra Max Hunter Edition frame, as well as the Hoyt Picatinny mounts in both the Tetra Max and the Tetra Rise, as well as the long dovetail and then the short dovetail bar option that I have on the Matthews bridge lock system. So all the dovetail options within the Tetra and Tetra Max Rise are going to be compatible with Matthews bridge lock system. So within both of these product lines, you're going to get a lot of different options as far as which sight you want to go with. So you're going to get your choice of a yellow or red second pin. Red is going to be the standard second pin color, but you can choose to go with the yellow option as well. And then both will be available in either a 10 or a 19 thousandths pin. All scope housing sizes are 1 inch and 5/8, and we do have the same front end that we've had on the Tetra line since 2020 with the macro gain adjustments as well as your micro adjustments as well for windage. New on the Tetra Rise this year, you're going to notice that there is a new needle carrier. So this needle carrier obviously has the 2 indicators, but you will see that it is a red anodized needle carrier to really call out where your needles are at. On the Tetra and Tetra Max Rise, we'll be able to achieve longer distances. So we have built the longest tape sets that we've ever offered in our company's history. So guys are going to be able to get out to 120, 130, 140, 150, and in some situations even farther depending on your arrow setup. So just making sure that we're getting arrow clearance, but really nice feature to be able to just step out in the backyard or head out to the 3D course to shoot out to some of those longer distances. On the hunting side of things, this is one of the nicest hunting sights that we have ever built. It does have reasonable pin gap spacing with a 1/4 inch spacing. That way, if that deer runs out from 20 to 35, your second pin's on. So the most commonly asked question that I've had so far as we went through this whole setup process is, where does that second pin sit? Well, that second pin is going to vary depending on the different arrow setups that you do shoot. Closest answer I could give you is the most common is going to be somewhere between 32 and 40 yards, depending on how fast your bow is. So you'll likely be somewhere between that 32 to 40 yards with that second pin if the first one's at 20. So along with all other HHA products, the Tetra Rise and the Tetra Max Rise carry a 100% lifetime warranty. All products are 100% made in the USA. For more information, you can visit our website at hhasports.com.
Small little nuances that you experience, don't even worry about it. Just brush them off. But if they snort wheeze and it's loud enough and you can hear it echo, it's like, oh, I think I'm done. And I've had probably like 7 out of 10 experiences I've dealt that I never see a single thing. There's been one time where I saw they came in from a different direction than I had normally patterned them, so they must not have heard them. Or the echo they were far enough away that the echo is bouncing off the trees and the bluffs. It kind of threw them for loops. It's like, well, it's not directional enough for them to figure out. So they just kept on trotting right out. They came out about, 40, 50 yards, something like that. And so I just sat there and watched. But they were too far away for where I felt ethically to shoot them. And 2, they were just too small. I know there's a lot of does on this property, so it's like I'm not too ambitious to shoot them. I'm being more when it comes on a does, I'm a lot more selective. And a tall tail sign of a more mature doe is that their faces really don't grow, but their ears do. And that's where you pay attention to the ears, because it's like if you try to look at the hips and the legs up front and stuff like that, you're not going to get a clear depiction unless you have binos and you're examining every square inch. But that's where you look at their ears. Their ears will tell you how old they are.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. And one thing I should also mention is that the property that I'm at, I have my blind and I'm setting up facing west. Less than a half a mile behind me to the east is the interstate. Like one of the 2 main interstates that run in South Dakota. So my thinking is I'm not too picky about the deer that I want to get. I want to get deer off this property so that they don't run into the interstate. It's my sacrificial civic duty to shoot deer for the state of South Dakota, I like to say. So, I wasn't too picky about the deer that I got. And I just I just want something with antlers. If it's a little spike, cool. If it's a big 6x6, even better. But, you got to start somewhere, right? And so I went out Sunday morning and I busted out those 2 does and I'm thinking, this is over. This day is a bust. Whatever. I'll try to come back out here in the evening. Not a big deal. I'm like, you know what? I'm already out here. I'm already up. It's only 6 o'clock. Let's just go out and sit for a couple hours anyway. And so, honestly, it's about 7:30 when the sunrise really started shining here. And I think it was those same 2 does that I busted actually came back down the lane that I had been seeing them all come through. And I can't remember if I put it on my Instagram or not. I didn't. I'll have to post that later or sometime. But I got a really nice picture of a doe 8 yards away from me, just staring at me without a care in the world. And just was like, oh, what's up, guys? And just wanders down. I'm like, okay, that was really cool. So it's like, a couple hours pass and it's like, 8:30 or something. And I'm just thinking, you know what? They're usually, the bucks that I've seen on camera, they're not out this late. They're usually they're usually out there between, there's a couple bucks that I've seen out there at like 1:30 in the morning. There's a buck or two that I've seen at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. But beyond that, really nothing.
Okay.
I haven't seen anything out there beyond 9 o'clock. So I'm like, you know what? 9 o'clock comes around. I'm going to turn in. I'm going to call it a morning. And, we're just going to call it a morning and come back in the evening. So it's like 8:45. And I am like, sitting back, legs crossed, and like I'm just on my phone, not really paying attention. And all of a sudden I hear some rustling in the background. I'm like, what the hell is that? Well, there's a single solitary tree 28 yards away from me.
Okay.
And there's this little buck just eating leaves off the tree. I'm like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. I'm looking, I'm like, okay, it's a deer, no big deal. Oh, I see antlers. Now this is game time, right? Like it is on like Donkey Kong, And so I'm like quietly knocking an arrow and putting up my rest and stuff. And I'm like, okay, when's a good time to shoot? When's good time to draw back? And so I finally get an opportunity and I draw back, and I didn't set my rest quite right, because I have a little like I don't know what you call it. It's like a little like flip up rest with like a U in between. I don't know what it's called. Again,
it's called a drop away, and then you have a limb driven or string driven drop away.
Yeah. So basically the drop away, instead of being in the actual drop away section, it went to the side. So I'm like, oh crap. So I'm like slowly letting it down, trying not to make noise, and like jerking it, like, because it's I think it would be a limb driven drop away.
Okay.
It's like so I get it set, I get it right, and I draw back again, and I let one fly, and I see him like kind of kick and scream and stuff. Like I saw him kick. I didn't hear him scream. I don't know why I say kick and scream, but I saw where he went. I'm like, I shot a buck. I know he was just he was a littler guy, but I shot a buck. I got antlers, and I'm like, I called Nikki. I'm like, I just got you antlers. It's all cool. I called up my dad. I called up Ben, and Ben was actually feeling sick that day, and he's like, awesome, dude, congratulations. Get him, load him up in the truck, and come over to my place, and I'll help you. I'll help guide you to quartering him.
Okay.
I'm like, cool, no big deal. I call my dad. I was like, hey, Dad, can you meet me at the spot here? We're gonna go track him, and we're gonna bring him back to the truck so we can quarter him. He's like, yep, I'll be there as soon as I can. And so, I give him 30 minutes, and I go out to the impact site. And not only did I find my arrow that I just shot at my buck, but I also found the arrow that I shot my doe with at the same time. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, no big deal.
Got money back.
Right? Money back, let's go. We can reuse that arrow. And I look, and I'm like, oh crap, my arrow's broken. Like there's no insert, there's no broadhead, there's nothing here. I'm like, oh crap, what happened here? And so I'm like, okay, let's just go check out the blood trail. I gave him like 30, 40 minutes, and I checked out the blood trail, and I kind of saw where he went and stuff. And I started tracking him, and I'm seeing like speck, big splotch of blood, and then speck, big splotch of blood. I'm like, what the hell? Where did I hit him? I thought I had a good lung shot on him, unless I like jerked it or something.
You could have dropped your elbow, because I'm seeing people where they come down and they drop their elbow, and then they'll go up or go.
Or
you pushed it too. You could have pushed it up.
I could have pushed it. Again, Jeff, I like blackout when it comes to these shots, so I couldn't tell you what it did. I mean, I'm just so excited and like happy and stuff. Like I just get so excited, and that's one thing I do need to work on. Definitely.
To follow through. It's something that took me for years to master when it came down to golf.
Mm-hmm. And so, I see, speck, and then a big splotch of blood, and speck, and a big splotch of blood. I'm like, where the hell did I hit this guy? and I tracked him for, I'm gonna say, I think I tracked it on Onyx, and it was about 150 yards
Okay.
before I found him bedded down. And I look, and I shot him right at the base of the neck.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I my guess is that I punched the trigger, because I know I have a tendency to do that when I'm rushing, and I'm if I had to guess, I think that's what I did. And but I did find him. He was down for the count already, but I just drew back an arrow and I sunk one right in his lungs, to finish him off. Um, but yeah, he's a little 4-pointer. Nothing too crazy, nothing too special, but
He's your
I mean,
first buck.
he's my first buck, and that's what I'm super proud of. And so we get the buck, we found him, I dragged him to I dragged him to the truck, we got him loaded up with my dad, and we ended up going to Ben's house, and I ended up quartering him myself, with the guidance of Ben. And so you know I kind of sit back there in bed at night and think, yeah, I could have held up for a bigger buck, and I should have shot him I should have had a better shot, that sort of stuff. But at the same time, I'm also like, you know what? The animal didn't suffer very long. We got him harvested. I sat by myself. I shot him myself. I tracked him myself. I brought him to the truck myself, and I quartered him myself. And to me, that's the biggest sense of accomplishment. Like, yeah, antlers aren't very spectacular, but that's a memory that I will have of that. I am proud of myself for doing this myself, my first year as an archer.
That's why I keep
My
telling you should do a European. You should have done a European mount for not a European, but a shoulder mount, because it's your first deer, and it's just like that's something that's going to come with. That's going to sync with you, remain in sync with you to the day you die.
Yeah. Unfortunately, shoulder mounts are a little bit too expensive for me at
Yeah,
the
they're a
moment.
little spendy.
They're a little spendy. No, I might try to Euro mount it. We'll see. Maybe. More than likely, we're just gonna mount the antlers. Just with like the Shields placard or whatever that you get from Shields.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah. Just do that sort of thing, just so I have it as a memory, because yeah, it'd be cool to have a Euro mount skull, but I want to save that Euro mount for something more impressive, like the deer that you have in your background there. Like that'd be something I like to personally.
That's my first archery buck right there.
There you go.
That's why I have him up there. But if you look in that, just look how massive that neck is, and it's like he was the dominant buck of the property that I was hunting. I was only hunting on a 5-acre piece of property, but it bottlenecks into a 20-acre, 25-acre plot of woodland, stuff like that. So it's just, but that's where the water is. It's the easiest access point for water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, believe me, I keep an eye on Zillow for his property if it goes up on sale. The reason why I don't hunt that property more is the guy retired, and it's like he works second shift. So allowing me to hunt there was his way of just giving everybody the middle finger. And then he is like, I'm retiring. So it's like, didn't have a problem with you hunting, but I'm retiring, now I have to deal with them. So it's like, oh man, because it's like when they're at work, he's in bed. When they're off work, when they're off work and home, he's at work. So it's like it didn't really ever really matter.
Right. But no, like I said, I shot him, I tracked him, I brought him to the truck, and I quartered him myself. And that's something that, had you told me a year ago that I'd be doing, I'd have said you're full of baloney, So, just coming from never have, really only really getting into archery the last 6 months or so, to now shooting 2 deer and harvesting 2 deer, and now being able to quarter and field dress a deer myself is something that I feel very accomplished, and I feel very proud of myself for doing that. And that's why I feel a little bit angry like when I see like TikToks and stuff of like oh, this is the buck that you shoot based off of the bow you get, and like if you shoot a bear, you shoot a big, 10-point mature buck, and if you shoot a diamond, you're gonna shoot a non-typical with like 3 drop tines, and you shoot a Matthew, you're shooting a button buck. I'm like, you know what? It's still putting food on the table, and it's your tag. You fill it the way that you want it. To me, what I did, especially this first year, and this is some great advice that I got from Ben, is like, this is your first year hunting. You shoot, if I were you, I would shoot the very first deer that you see.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what? You might get nervous and you might totally miss. But if you're sitting out there and you're holding out for a big, trophy, 150 inch, 200-inch buck, that might not ever come, and you're going to be wasting a season. Whereas if you want to get that experience under your belt, you want to shoot a deer. And you know what? It doesn't have to be the biggest deer in the world, but you want to get that experience under your belt. And that's why I did what I did. And you know what? I'm happy and proud of the results that I have. Honestly, I really truly am. So that's kind of how I became where I am today here. I plans for the future. I'm actually hoping to go out and sneak away Sunday morning. Trying to go out West River because I still have one more tag I can fill. I have a West River any deer tag. I don't really necessarily care if it's a muley or a whitetail. I just mostly just want to try to get a bigger buck. Because now I got the first one under the belt, I'm like, okay, this is my baseline. I have a baseline here. We can only go up from here, folks. Started from the bottom, now we're here. So trying to do that. Next year, I'm looking to try to start doing some archery antelope. Because there's some good hunting West River archery antelope here in South Dakota.
How far away is West River from Sioux Falls?
Depends on where you mean West River. Sioux Falls to like the edge, like to the actual river, is about 2 hours.
Well, that's not horrible. That's a pretty decent drive.
Yeah, the place I'm going to on Sunday is going to be about 3-ish hours away. It's a little bit more north.
Ben coming with you?
No, it's going to be just me solo.
All right. So e-scouting is going to be the biggest thing, is looking for food, and you're going to be looking for water and bedding.
Yep. That's why whenever I get a chance while I'm at work, I'm scouting out on Onyx, trying to figure out where I can go.
Now, do you pay for Onyx, or do you just use some of their free features?
I paid for Onyx for South Dakota because like there's like you can buy like the one state or all 50 states. I just did the one state of South Dakota.
I just bought Wisconsin. Now, you are aware that you can go in, you can actually change some of the filters on there for carnivorous.
Yep.
And also, that's what I did. It's like it really definitely opens your eyes up where you're going to find some big animals, or at least find some animals in general.
Yeah. So, no, I'm excited. I'm gonna try to do a solo
Spot and stock, essentially.
Spot and stock. There you go. That's what I was trying to think of, but I couldn't say because it's been a long day. So no, I've never really gone spot and stocking before, so it's going to be a big experience and a big learning curve. But
lucky you, we don't have that opportunity over here. We have fence line to fence line, and that's pretty much it. Unless you have permission to go on the next one, it just turns into a shitstorm. So you have to. The public land I do hunt on, it's only like 80 acres, but I have fence lines on both sides, and I have Biden supporters in the middle. So it's like, this fucking sucks.
Right? Like, yeah, no. Now it's, and actually, I want to ask you a question here, Jeff.
Go for it.
Since you're primarily an archer hunter, do you feel like landowners react differently to asking permission for archery hunters as opposed to rifle hunters?
Oh, 100%. You're going to find more flexibility with that than anybody else, because as a landowner, you know their longest shot's going to be 40 yards maximum. That's most ethical shooters will do, unless you have practiced 120-yard shots consistently and you're putting in tight groupings. But when it comes into gun hunting, it's like that is a privilege that you have to either a earn, or you have to know people, or you work your way up to it. Like when I would go out door knocking for gun hunting, I would usually always start with pest control, like would it be raccoons, coyotes, squirrels, chipmunks, stuff like that, or rabbits, stuff that are nuisance to the landowner, and then use that as a way to hopefully get in their good gracious to allow me to gun hunt for whitetail. But now, since I've strictly been bow hunting, you're going to find yourself a lot more leniency of doing that. It's like, hey, I'm a bow hunter, and it's like, and they already know that you're only going to be out there for so little time. Like you're going to be out there maybe more frequently than a gun hunter will, because the gun hunters, depending on the state, like Wisconsin, we have rifle season, we have a couple muzzleloader seasons, and that's about it. But with archery, our whole thing is to be less obnoxious or anything like that. Because with gun hunters, you're going to tend to have a group of people or a party hunting type scenario, because you're going to try to maximize the time you do have.
Right. And that's one thing that I was kind of just curious about, because, like I got permission from my aunt who owns the property, but I still went around to all the neighbors around the property and just be like, hey, my name is Trent. I got permission to be here. I'm an archery hunter. I'm just going to be out here. If you see my car, just don't report it to the police, because it's just me out hunting. And they're like, oh, you're an archery hunter? Yeah, cool, whatever, no big deal. They just don't like guns because, they have dogs, they have cows, it's the noise and the potential for shooting beyond your limits. Whereas, as an archer, you can shoot 120 yards, but not much further than that, unless you're like Levi Morgan or like Joe Rogan pulling back his monster bow or whatever.
I think the only one who really stretches the distance out that far would be like a John Dudley or a Cameron Haynes. Those guys consistently practice 120 yards, but they'll never take a shot that far away.
Oh yeah,
their whole idea is like you usually want to shoot double the length that you want to take an animal. So if you're shooting 120 yards, your maximum range is now 60. But that's still a long ways for that arrow to travel, and they can move one step to the back, forward, twist to the right or left, and all of a sudden you got a bad shot on an animal. That's why for me, I cap it at 40 unless I can. Only way I'd stretch a shot that far, I've been watching the animal and I've been paying attention to its habits to understand like what it's going to be doing, kind of predictive in that scenario. But my goal is to shoot them 20 or less. This way that I can see a clear sight picture in my housing, in my peep sight, and just drill that arrow home.
Yeah. So, what I'm actually hoping to do this upcoming year as well is I'm hoping to actually upgrade my bow too. Because February is when the bonuses come in at my job here. And I'm hoping to get a new bow. Haven't decided on a brand or anything yet. Kind of leaning towards the Matthews V3X. What is it? The 33 axle.
Oh, it's a smooth sailing bow, and by that time the new bows are going to be out.
Yeah,
so you can go on those, because like I tell people, like if you want to get a nice bow, 2015 or newer, because it's like you can buy a nice Hoyt for a really reasonable price. Expedition, you can buy Elite, you can buy Matthews, but when you look from 2015 to today, they're minute changes, unless the Omia from the new Elite that just came out. They're doing micro adjustments for your let off. They're doing micro adjustments for your cam lean. It is the creme de la creme when it comes down to hunting bows, because they actually put a lot of technology into it, and they actually put a lot of engineering behind it. Because like when you look at some of the new Hoyts and Matthews, they're only doing one or two tweaks, but now considering they also have a very large market share, and so they don't really have to do a lot, because people are diehard loyalists, and they will shoot it. I've shot, let's see here, first bow was a Hoyt,
Okay.
Second bow I still own and shoot was my Elite, which I brought out when I went out to Bend.
Yep.
Then I also have my Expedition. So so the reason why I shoot Expedition is because I wanted a 34 axle, brand new bow, never been shot by anybody else, and it still has a limited lifetime warranty on it. So that's the best part about it. And it's made out of Iowa, so it's like I'm an Iowa boy through and through. So I'm gonna support those guys.
There you go.
Getting the pleasure to meet Kurt Hennington and a lot of the staff down there in Anthem Archery in Decorah. And then plus I have my friend Tyson. It's like I want to give him money because it's like he's got a small shop, and I appreciate his redneck engineering when it comes down to bows and stuff like that. And
I love redneck engineering, man.
And he's just a really great guy. And plus, I really enjoy the company of him and his fiance. They've been on my podcast, I think 3 times this year alone, 4 times, I believe, just because of how often our paths cross. Just because it's like they're there, and Kayla is an Expedition field shooter, and so she needs Expedition has points. I apparently have a point system. I'm not a staffer, so I don't know fully about all that stuff. But that is one thing that you could always, as you progress in your career, becoming a pro staff for somebody is quite nice. I mean, that's why I have everybody I have in my back wall.
You go.
I mean, this is 2015 and counting of all the energy I put into the outdoor world and promoting a good message. But everybody on this wall here is American made. Like well, except I think Dangler Case is probably made in the Pacific Rim, but VIP Archery made in Texas. They did not suffer from the pandemic. They kept on rising. And Matt, he came up with 5 new broadheads this year alone. He came out with a patented revolutionary insert system. It's just like so like when you see all these new broadheads that come out from like what is it? You got Dirt Nap, you have Schwacker, you have
G5.
Well, a lot of those companies are based out of the Pacific Rim. So it's like I want to support companies that are based in America, so they're taxes stay in America, they're employ American employees and stuff like that. So that's my whole America is literally my name here. So it's like that's why I encourage people to. I'm not knocking any of those broadheads because they work.
Right.
I mean, I've shot my fair share of different ones, but I just primarily stick with them because I know Matt, I know Cindy, and it's like their mission behind it. And he is a nuclear engineer that taught himself how to work with aerodynamics, like work within it and learning the techniques about it. And he just self-taught, never went to school for it, nothing like that. He just figured it all out. And
that's awesome.
That's why I continue shooting them. And the doe I shot, the mechanical broadhead did not fail, so which is fantastic from it. And he is a guru when it comes down to it. And they test and they test and they test, and they have a global reach. He has distributors in Spain and in England and France and over there in Australia and in the Czech region and stuff like that, just because they want accurate, high quality broadheads.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one of the big reasons I want to get a new bow is because my nephew, who he's 14, wants to get into archery. And so I'm like, you know what? I want to upgrade my bow. The Matthews Mission Switch that I have is a great bow for him because he's 14 years old and he's almost as tall as I am. Like he is ridiculous. But the nice thing about the Switch that I have is it's a very much a grow with you bow. So I mean, it has a very adjustable draw length. It has a lot of it has a lot of different poundages that you can switch between. I think it goes from like 70 to like 30, I think.
I thought it went less than that, but I'm not 100% sure.
I mean, it could be less than that, but I mean, like,
have you shot the V3X yet?
I have not yet.
So this is what I tell anybody that's looking in the market to buy a new bow. Find some place that carries a lot of bows and shoot every single one of them, because every bow is going to have a different reaction in your hand. And if and certain nuances will throw you off where you're not going to like shooting it. So that's why I always encourage people to shoot a Bowtech and a Matthews and a Hoyt and stuff like, because you may find yourself that you thought you were going to buy this Hoyt and then you shoot it. It's like, I don't like how it likes to buck on me. Or you shoot a Bowtech and I don't like how all of the vibration is so centric and stuff like that. Because some people don't like using stabilizers because they want to go a very low profile when they're going backcountry or something like that. They want to be less is more type scenario. And it's
I have no loyalty to bow companies. If I shoot a Hoyt, if I shoot a Bear, if I shoot a Diamond, I don't care. I will buy what fits me best. My biggest thing is when my fiance graduates, I don't know what shops are going to be available. So if I go because Ben really likes his Darton that he has. The problem is not every shop knows how to work on a Darton.
Dartons are far better than Elites. Elites have this weird mod system that is just dumb. But now they've improved. Well, no, I think they still, even with the new ones, even the new flagship bows they still have a mod system where everybody else doesn't. Like Hoyts, Matthews, Expedition, Bowtech, they don't have a mod system, so it's easier to tinker with. And then with Elite, you have to buy the mod. That's anywhere between $80 to $100 depending on who the vendor is.
Right. And so it's because I don't have all the stuff to have my own bow shop to where I can tinker it with myself. I need to make sure that I have a bow that is more universally accepted and more people know how to work on it. And the only reason I'm thinking,
understandable.
The only reason I'm thinking the V3X is just because everybody wants to be a Matthews dealer, right? And credits where credit's due. Matthews do make some really good bows. I shoot a Matthews now. But at the same token, I don't necessarily have that brand loyalty. So if I can find a Bear or, a Darton or, anything that I like better, as long as it's serviceable, I will absolutely go for it. Absolutely. But yeah, that's kind of my story and where I'm at and what I'm looking for in the future here. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell here.
That's awesome. I'm really impressed in how you that inspires me that you have taken the sport to heart, and especially when it comes down to helping with mental health and going through anguish and stuff like that, and having the luxury of going to Ben's house to go shoot, because I tell Alicia, it's like I'm going through Camel Fire deals or huntinggeardeals.com, and I'm seeing these really good deals on bags. Because when we were out there that Friday, he was talking about he would like to get bags to set underneath them or right behind him, so this way when the arrow comes up short, it'll fall into a bag. And it's like, I buy this for $35, but I'm not going to be able to shoot it because I live 4 hours away, 5 hours away. So it's like it throws because it's like if I lived closer, if I lived in South Dakota or if I lived in Iowa or Minnesota, like within an hour driving distance, I would be. It's like, Ben, you got a package coming for you.
Oh yeah, no, it's and that's the nice thing too is having him as a friend. He has this outdoor range, and I don't know if your listeners know or not, but he has an outdoor range where he has different 3D targets set up at different distances. And to me, that's so much more fun than shooting at bags. It's absolutely 1,000% more fun than shooting at bags. And so it's a lot of fun, and it's great being out there and yeah, no, it's I do this sport to one, help with my health, both mental and physical, getting out there, getting out in the outdoors and exercising and because I tell you what, that buck, he was heavy. Okay. He was freaking heavy. All right. And climbing up and down mountains at Mountain Archery Fest and, spotting and stalking and, getting out there and getting boots on the ground and putting those miles in, absolutely. That's great. And, it's honestly, it's just so enjoyable and so relaxing, and it's just a lot of fun. And I'm glad that the archery community is so welcoming for the most part. Yeah, there are still going to be some jerkwads, but you're going to get that in every sport and every fandom that you're going to get at. There's always going to be some people that try to ruin it, but
Correct.
for the most part, the archery community has been very welcoming. If I have any questions or if I go to an event and, I feel embarrassed because I can only shoot 60 yards because that's the furthest my pin will go out because I have a fixed housing. I don't have one of them fancy sliding housings that, you can shoot out to 120 yards and have a pin be reasonably accurate. I don't have that. And they're like, yeah, man, cool. Just move up a little bit. No big deal. They're very welcoming and very understanding of like, hey, you're new to this. And it's a very welcoming community. And my biggest concern is, and maybe you don't want to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. What I've seen a lot on my TikTok recently is compounds versus crossbows, and how crossbows aren't real bows, and and my thing is if you're getting out in the woods and you're getting out there and you're hunting, go out and do it. Don't let anybody else drag you down with it. Get out in the woods, and go out and have it and enjoy yourself. Not everybody can shoot a compound bow because shooting a compound bow is complicated and it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of discipline. I wish more people would shoot compound bows as opposed to crossbows, especially if you're able-bodied. But you know what? If Ben were to start shooting his compound now with 2 kids and a third one on the way, there's no way that he could make the progress that I've made just because I don't have kids. I don't have to put in that time with my family. I can put in the practice. Not everybody can do that. And I hope the archery community doesn't get so big to where we start tearing each other down just because of our preferences,
I completely understand that. I posted a meme on my Facebook page, and I got mixed reviews on it but it's just simply just being a joke. It was meant to be a joke because I don't care what people use as long as you get out there. And we have certain requirements like Minnesota and Iowa. You have to have some physical ailment. Wisconsin, it doesn't matter. You can be any age shoot. But oddly enough, out of all the means of all the means of taking animals, crossbows actually have the highest efficacy rate of being able to retrieve your animals. Something like 38 or 42%. Even with rifles, they still don't have the same thing. So, it's one of those things where it's I like that aspect of having that success rate for it. But like with Wisconsin's perspective on it is to get more hunters out in the wild, out there into the ground blind or the tree stand. Well, that could be the crossbows could be a little cumbersome up in the tree stands, but anybody that usually hunts out of a tree stand usually has some type of rope system, so they're not they have the 4 points of contact when you're climbing up the ladders and such. But it is a very valuable tool. They become the expense has come down. Don't get me wrong, there are some $4,000 crossbows. But there are some really good ones right around that $1,000 price point.
Absolutely.
The factor that anybody can get behind them and shoot, you still got to practice with them. You can still make mistakes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was actually watching on YouTube the other day. It's a YouTube video, Seek One. I can't remember. I think they're based out of like Georgia, like Atlanta, Georgia area.
Okay.
And they actually flew down a guy who he's been hunting his whole life. He's like 60 some years old. And a couple years ago, he was in a tree stand and he fell out of his tree stand and broke his neck. So he's paralyzed. And he's just like, they wanted to bring him on to do a podcast and to share his story and stuff. And they ended up taking him out to a blind and using a crossbow. And so they were able to put a trigger finger release on him, and they just tied some D-loop material around the trigger of the crossbow and hooked that into the release there, and he was able to pull his arm back enough to where he could pull the trigger. First time in 3 or 4 years that he's been able to go out hunting and is able to do it because of crossbow. That to me speaks way more volumes than people on the internet screaming about, oh, you missed the buck because you're not shooting a Hoyt, just that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I I think the archery community is growing at a pretty good rate here. Um, and I just want to make sure that, the archery community doesn't become so big that it becomes toxic to itself. That's my concern here.
Mhm.
But no, it's been a great journey so far, and I'm glad I've gotten into it, and I've enjoyed it so much, and it's really helped me out, both mentally and physically, and I'm hoping to do it for many years down the road.
That's what I'm excited to hear, man. And getting out there and going to the gym and working out and doing some type of physical activity will help. But even simply just walking is the
Mhm.
best anything you can do for you. Like, especially if you do like 75 hard, there's different types of exercises for you. I got to meet Jake from First Form at the Beast Mode
Mhm.
Archery Games, and he's just a
Hmm.
swell guy. And I listened to him on a podcast over the weekend, actually on my way back from my Okoboji trip, and I'm going to probably DM him and have him on my podcast just because it's just like he's a very well-rounded, positive gentleman that really can inspire guys like us to get off our fat asses and get something done. But I've been working out, man. When I go to the gym, I will do a 5K every single time I go to the gym.
Yeah, I've been seeing
that's
it
my
on your
initial.
I can't remember if I've seen it on your Instagram or your Facebook, but yeah, I've been
Both.
seeing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do. That's what I do. It's like, and I will do a 5K, and it's 3 point.
2 miles or whatever,
Yeah,
3.1.
exactly. Yeah, and I will go uphill. I will max the incline at 15. Well, at Planet Fitness, the highest the incline will go is 15. I max that thing out, and I tell you what, that has made a world of difference when you're going up and down the bluffs here. And like I was still winded when I was out there here a couple weeks ago, but nowhere where I was last year, where I was just
Hmm.
huffing and puffing. But that's the thing about getting and staying in shape, and then having walking pneumonia for 13 days, 14 days.
Ooh.
Man, that really put me. I'm still dealing with some residuals from it, but not as bad as it once was. Because with walking pneumonia, you can develop COPD because of
Mhm.
how harsh it is to your lungs. And I'm looking forward to getting back out to the gym, but also hitting the bluffs and stuff like that. Because I'm going to be hunting next week, and I'm going to be bouncing around from different properties and hopefully be able to punch my buck tag. I'm not sure how big it will be because I'm just going to be using public land, so just
Yeah.
scouting and e-scouting and paying attention to onyx and figuring out where the food's at and figuring out where water's at and trying to work everything
Hmm.
in between and just kind of play it. Because next week every morning is going to be high 20s, low 30s, and there's going to be bound to be something on its feet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So how many tags do you got
I get
this
4
year?
tags.
Okay.
I get one buck tag statewide, and then I also have 3 doe tags they want to keep they're limited. I'm not sure if they're limited to the county that you put in for, but that's just where I know I have consistent where I know there's deer at,
Mm.
essentially, because it's like bluff country is known to hold big deer. It's just trying to figure out where they're going to be at and stuff like that. And when I was out tracking my doe here a couple weeks ago, I came across some large amounts of scat, but I don't have I don't trust putting a trail cam out there in public land because
Mm. Yep.
it could come up missing, and it's common here in Wisconsin
Oh
anywhere.
yeah.
And where I was to walk to my stand, I knew I came across a mock scrape, hadn't been touched in weeks, but I
Hmm.
look over, it's like, this looks too perfect. And it's got to
Hmm.
be a trail cam. And I look over and here's a Rebel Tacticam one. It's like, I just kind of make a random gesture and just keep walking because it's like they're $150 trail cam. So it's
Oh,
like,
I know. I
it's
know.
like good for him, for the person that wants to get out there and put it on there, because deer are lazy, and it's like if you're thinking about taking that trail, a deer's going to do the exact same thing just because they're
Hmm.
looking for the ease of use. Because if something pops off, they want to be able to store that energy to run as fast as they can away from whatever's chasing them. Because I found
Hmm.
out that night when I was chasing that doe or tracking that doe, there's 2 packs of coyotes out there. So either way, either that doe's going to survive or those coyotes ate like kings.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh man. Oh man.
But I tracked it for 400 yards. I mean, I between let's see here, Saturday night, we went back out there Sunday morning, and I started back where we left out Saturday, and the next blood trail I saw was actually up a hill, 70 some yards. I sent you screenshots of Onyx and showing you like where she went. And it's just remarkable on how far she went. And then what we learned is that she never stopped running. She just kept running. If she would have if she would have bedded down, I think she may have expired. But we saw really good blood for the first 150 yards. Then she hit
saw it. Yeah, you sent a picture of me on Instagram. Yeah. I'm surprised she didn't bleed out.
But it's one of those random places where I shot her forward of the heart. But there's a gray area in there that you can sneak an arrow through it or around through it, and they'll still survive. Well, man, Trent, thank you for coming on the podcast. This was a very good conversation. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that. I had a great time. I don't know about you, but I had a great time. So
I did too. I'm looking forward to next year, man. Ben was talking. We're talking to Ben and Jeremy Fisher. He runs the Toxin app, and we were talking like, well, when do we want to get together? Do we want to do a TAC? Do we want to do a Martin Archery Fest? Like, what makes sense? And trying to balance everything out because we're kind of. I'm looking at Ben's schedule more than anybody else because I have really good communication with my ex. Jeremy's kids are all up out of the house, stuff like that. So it's like trying to work within his means and working with Liz because 3 kids is a lot. So luckily,
absolutely. Between
December and I think the first HHA shoot will probably be in May, or they're going to be doing something in Vortex in April. But I don't think Ben will make a trip out for that. But hopefully he'll be able to come.
That's in Minnesota, ain't it? So
Vortex? Wisconsin.
Oh, it's in Wisconsin. Oh.
Yes, Vortex is home is in Wisconsin. So
I thought I heard it was in Minnesota. I don't know. Hard to keep track of all these different companies, man. Where they're all from.
Yeah, Wisconsin is the mecca for everything. So we have a Tacticam is based out of Minnesota. That's in Caledonia, which is about 30 miles away. Then you have Nose Jammer, which is based out of Winona, and that's about 30, 40 miles away. And we also have Predator Camo, which is local. Then we also have obviously HHA. We have A3 Strings, which I'm actually talking to Brent tonight about scheduling something for him because I'm gonna put some A3 Strings on my expedition and kind of give it some flair. What else do we have here in Wisconsin too? We have, obviously Matthews, which is 30 minutes away in Sparta, 20 minutes away in Sparta. Oh, what else do we got here? Then also we have Decorah, which has expedition archery. What is it? There used to be Ozonics that was based in Mason City, Iowa. So yeah, there's a lot. We live in whitetail heaven.
That's awesome. That's awesome, dude.
All right, sir. Well, I'll let you go, and you have yourself a great night.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for having me on, Jeff, and I'll look forward to hearing from you soon. And hopefully, we're gonna get to shoot together again soon.
Exactly. And then to close things off, how can people find you on the interwebs?
I am on both Twitter and Instagram at awkward_couch. Yeah, that's basically I don't really go on Facebook much at all. So, and that's more of like a personal Facebook stuff. So awkward_couch on both Twitter and Instagram.
There we go, folks. That's how you can go and find them. And as always, you can find Bucks of America podcast on all major streaming sites and check out the YouTube channel. That's where this episode will be there with cut ads and all that fun stuff. So anyways, thank you again.